Not. He's looking a little saber-toothy. I'm not digging that look a ton.
There's some clean-shaven pics where he looked good.
He needs some wet hair.
Yeah.
More wet.
The solution for every wrestler.
More wet and wavy.
Wet that hair. What was...
I just elbowed this speaker. On this day.
The speaker that my Switch is on?
Are that you my Switch is
and
on?
mine
I don't
and
care about
John's.
yours.
Get these switches out of here.
We're canceling the podcast.
Get this
we broke 3 switches.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 40, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with DJ Mandolini.
Yo.
And John Hines.
Hello.
And we're going again without Randall this week, but he should be back with us next week. He's got some family in town this week, I believe. But yeah, we're just going to talk about some more video games as per usual. No cruises to talk about this week, although I guess John's taking us off the beaten path again with little video games and some exercise. We've talked about some Ring Fit Adventure on the podcast before, but John and his wife Lauren have been getting into it lately, and I think in a pretty serious way.
Yes. Lauren got me Ring Fit Adventure for my not my birthday, for Christmas. Good Lord.
Close enough.
Yeah, you know. But I apologize ahead of time because we are incapable of correctly calling it by its name. We constantly say that we're going to play Wii Fit every single time.
It's hard not, like I came over the other day and it's like even the main like trainer character looks, it's just like, why is this not the Wii Fit trainer?
I mean, it's got to be the Ring Fit tip. But yeah. But yeah, like Lauren got that for me with like the incentive. Like I don't really like doing, typical workout videos. I get bored with them really easily. I don't like doing also the same workout videos over and over again. So like if I'm doing something where it's like, oh, you do this for like 30 days, like that is awful.
It's monotonous. It's really difficult. I'm also don't really work out very much. I can do some yoga routines here and there, but even that, yeah, it gets repetitive.
Yeah. So she got this with the intention that like, oh, because there's the game element to it, like that'll be a good way to incentivize you to work out. And it started off with like, she got it for me, like to do that while like, she's way better at, doing like different workout videos and things that you can do at your home. But, once I started doing it, I was like, I'll set up a profile for Lauren as well. And what we've been doing basically for the past 10 days straight, we've been doing like 20 to 30 minutes a day of just doing these workout levels. And it's been incredibly rewarding. Like also before I left to, come over to record the podcast today, she was doing a workout and was only at like minute 20, and I typically bring my Switch over so that we can play some games or go over some stuff before we record, and she got a little upset. She was like, oh, well, great. Looks like I'm not going to be able to play my game. And throughout it's like, well, looks like I just need to get my own Switch. And yeah, it's been incredibly fun for someone like me who plays a ton of games, and it's also been pretty accessible for someone like Lauren. Like, there are certain mechanics in the games that are way more game than exercise. Like, I had to help her, like, when you're navigating menus to, like, squeeze smoothies out so that you can use them as, like, their health potions or your attack potions. Or even things like, oh, this exercise damages multiple enemies, and like there are enemies that are weak to a specific type. Things that were immediately clear to someone like me who plays a ton of RPGs or plays like games in general, and like to someone like Lauren who like doesn't play games very often at all. Like that was a little bit more confusing. Like there was one time that she was doing a one of the bosses and was just doing the exercises that she wanted to use to work out with, like that was focusing. And like at one point I was like, oh, if there are multiple enemies on the screen, this is the attack that you should use because it does that. And because it was an attack that spread the damage out to a lot of different enemies, like it was weaker than one that was just attacking one. So she was just doing the boss with like the weakest attacks, and it took her so much longer. And like she had to like guard against so much more attacks, and like was just exhausted by the end of it. I'm like, I don't remember this boss being that hard.
Yeah.
And then like I realized as like she's selecting attacks, I was like, why are you choosing that attack? And she's like, why wouldn't I choose this attack? Like, this is a good exercise. So there are some things that if you're a person who doesn't play a ton of games, like aren't necessarily like as evident, but at the same time, like the game is really good at guiding you through specific things. Like even when you're choosing your attacks, like you have like a loadout of this many attacks that you can do, like that focus on your legs, your abs, or yoga, or arms. And like when you're doing those, like you can kind of tailor that towards what you're strong at. And at one point I was like, oh man, am I going to be like hindering myself by only choosing the ones that I like or the ones that I'm strong at? But then like I would get into a level and the level would just be squats, and like that's the main way that you're getting through the level. I was like, okay, good. Like there are levels that are designed specifically to work areas that maybe you're not strong at, so you just need to do them. And I really think that that's a really like smart level design choice that they did, so that like even if you are doing stuff that is more tailored towards your thing, they're still making sure that you're like doing a more well-rounded workout, like even beyond that.
Just the fact that even if you fail at fighting a boss or whatever, you're still getting that workout in. Like you're still still getting the value you're buying the game for anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are there fail states? Like can you die in a boss battle? Or
yeah.
Okay.
I've lost at a level, and like there are also like kind of RPG elements to it where like I went back and just like grinded for a little bit by like just replaying a couple levels and getting, a couple levels higher and gaining more stats and like more defense and more attack.
Was that purely game related, or was there any motivation of that from like, man, that exercise felt great, I want to do that again?
That specifically was me just being like, I don't want to like go into a level and die again. Like, even though, yes, I am technically just doing another workout. Like,
I don't want to work out for nothing.
Right. But, but like, honestly, that little like reward that you get of just like moving forward in the story and like moving forward in like levels and getting better equipment, getting like more attacks. Like, honestly, the most satisfaction I get is when I get to another level and I unlock like a new exercise, and like seeing that I'm being like, oh, cool, like this is a new thing that I can do. So I don't know, I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like once you beat the game, how like they would entice you to keep playing. Like
I'm very interested in that. And like that was also kind of a worry. At least I think that the way that it's kind of exponential in growth, because like the first like couple worlds we beat in like the first couple days, and I was like, oh my god, like are we going to like beat this game and like before like a month is out? But like we just got to, I think, world 5, and the amount of stages in that world were just so many, like 3 times as many as there were in like the previous one. And then there are side quests that you can do, and like some of those like are just like, oh, here's a gym where you're doing like a mini game that's around one mechanic, or like just like, oh, here's an item that you need to get from a specific area. So I think that they'll do a pretty good job of incentivizing that. And honestly, I could probably ramp up the difficulty on mine, and then I would be progressing slower through the game. but like it offers a ton of range and difficulty as well. Like,
is that game difficulty or workout difficulty or both? Does
both.
it have like sliding scales for both?
I think it is the kind of like inherently like tied together.
Yeah.
Like I think just by a matter of like, oh, like this enemy takes more damage, which takes more repetitions. So like you're going to just be more tired as you're going through each level. But like, yeah, I'm at like, my difficulty level is at level 20. And for one time, like I was like, oh, let's bump it up a couple. And like I bumped it up to like level 21. And that was too big of a jump. And I was like, this is a really granular like scale, which I think is great. Like I think it does a really good job of like, I also think like the like controls are really responsive. Like there are times where like I'll botch a squat and it doesn't do as much damage as it normally would, and like you need to really get like your form right or your like repetitions down, and like I think it does a great job of doing that.
Does it give any sort of feedback about like how to do it better? Like,
so like that is what Tip is, who's basically the same thing as the Wii Fit trainer, but Tip is this little like person who is always either on like a quarter, like left quarter of the screen, or a little thumbnail in the upper, and Tip is always doing the correct form, and it like shows it with a conjunction of where the ring controller is and where the like leg sensor is. So like, and you will get feedback based on like if you're not doing it far enough, like, and it is, you know, like, and every single workout video, like, you know, there's the like person who's encouraging you, and the like character that is the ring controller is always giving you encouragement. And it's a really positive game. I think it's even like when you're fighting the boss is never like belittling you for like, oh, you're weak or you're not doing it. It's just like the boss is always like, yeah, it's fun to be like the best at things. Like, oh, I need to work out and be better than you.
Yeah.
So it's like, the encouragement you get that like is like, oh, if like you're not going far enough, like the like character on screen will be like, try moving a little bit further this way. It's like, but then it says, but don't overextend yourself. And like there's always like in like reactive notes that you're getting that are very encouraging. And I don't find it annoying. It might be for other people, but I think that it does a really good job of like just being encouraging and helpful.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, and I'm sure Randall brought it up when we talked about it on the podcast before too. But like the world is just like really vibrant, really colorful and bright. Like I want to like play a regular game in this world. Like nothing against the fact that it's an exercise thing, but like I mean, like the game just looks compelling, at least to me, regardless of it being an exercise thing. So that's I do find it an interesting choice that they went with like an RPG skin on like a workout game, but kind of cool that they're maybe kind of bringing people into gaming through this or vice versa, exercise through gaming. You know, it's pretty cool. I definitely want to check this out at some point. It is a little steep for me at $80, considering I can, you know, even though it's a little bit of a trudge, I can load up some yoga videos on YouTube and plow through them. But, you know, if it ever goes on sale or something, I definitely will pick this up at some point, I think.
Yeah. I think it's worth it. And especially like, you know, since both Lauren and I are doing it, we're getting twice the value out of it. So
yeah. And just cool to see Nintendo's always doing different weird stuff, you know, so it's cool to see them kind of sticking with that like Wii Fit kind of concept for so long. So, but DJ, I know when you got back from the cruise, you've been playing some FutureGrind.
Oh yeah,
we'll just transition to that from nothing. But but yeah, this is a game that I kind of like. It has like a semi-generic sounding name, or at least I feel like I at least had it mixed up with a different game in my head when I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of that game, and then when I looked it up, or you showed me a clip, and I was like, oh wait, I've never seen this game before ever. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, as the name suggests, it's a game just about grinding on rails. You've got like, they call, you know, your vehicle a bike. It's really more like a pod that has like, typically has two wheels that are, you know,
like
out of different.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it has like a little bit of a unicycle.
Unicycle where the
it's just wheels jutting out at
180 degrees on top and bottom.
Yeah, but it's called a bike. But your wheels will be different colors, and the rails in the level will be those same colors. And so the rule is you need to grind a rail with a wheel of the same color.
And this is like side-scrolling perspective,
yeah, it's like a
right?
2.5D game. And so like it gets pretty complex, not complex, but there's a good amount of variety because you get different bikes that, are set up differently. Like, the one of the last ones you get, you have one of your wheels is black and it's not allowed to touch anything. And the other one will change its color every time you leave a rail, so you always have to be alternating the colors. So like you have to think about going through the level a lot differently than previously, where it's just like, oh, if I see like purple and then another purple, it's just like, okay, just keep how I am. But
can you choose the bike per every level, or you like only have a few that you can choose per level?
I think each level has its own bike.
Okay.
Prescribed to it or whatever.
Yes. And the way the levels work, like there's 30-ish levels in the entire game. And it's, they'll give you the level and, at first you're just trying to get through it and establish like a high score. The high score doesn't really matter. It's not like it prevents you from moving on. But once you do that, you'll go through that same level or that same level with very minor adjustments with an extra like goal in mind, like nail this trick at some point during.
Oh, so you're doing tricks and racking up scores and stuff too?
The only tricks really are like front flips, back flips, and the different types of grinds you can do. Like you can do a normal grind where it's just you're on top of a rail. You can do a grind where your top wheel is grinding against the bottom of a rail.
The undergrind. I saw that score pop up.
You can also do a hang grind where your top wheel is on the top of a rail, but like your pod is hanging beneath it. So that's a hang grind. And there will be, certain goals that are like do a hang grind for certain amount of meters or something like that. So
and is gravity always going to because you can do the undergrind, like what is keeping you
so you always so you have like a double jump, but like while you're doing an undergrind, as long as you're holding the jump button down, you still...
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's basically whenever you make contact with a rail, you regain your jump. So I guess since you're constantly keeping contact with the rail...
Gotcha.
You can constantly...
Oh, that's cool. Because, I was wondering how, like, you weren't falling when you were doing the undergrinds.
Yeah.
And how are you controlling, like, do you have control over the rotation of the wheels, or is that's all momentum and gravity based?
So... you have control. That's really all you have control over. And there is momentum. There is a bike that there is no momentum for. Like it's just is where you put it, but like it gives you a triple jump.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say like you don't have to worry too much about like doing too many like flips or whatever. That's really only if you're like score chasing.
Yeah.
There are some parts later where it's like, in order to get past this challenge, you do need to go at a certain pace. But it's never anything to like, it's easy to kind of intuit what they want you to do, I guess.
Like the path that you should be taking, essentially.
Yeah. But like, I just like the variety that all the levels offer. Like, some other things. Like there can be these discs you pick up in a level where it switches the colors of all the rails, so you quickly have to adjust. And like some of these things you can avoid. Like you can kind of take multiple like routes in a level.
It looked
sometimes.
like you could like jump over a rail and like skip it and take the high road or something. Yeah.
But like sometimes, you know, when you're redoing like a level with added goals, it'll be like hit every disc, like these like rail changing discs in a level. So like you do like at first you can go at the level at your own pace, but you do like eventually have to get the hang of nimbly going through at these like higher difficulty challenges.
There. I feel like, you know, this is like I don't want to. Like, I feel like the way you're describing it, like if it kind of plays like an auto runner, sort of. Yeah. You know, you're constantly moving forward, right? You don't have much control over that.
Like the momentum aspect does have a slight impact
like
on your
variation,
speed. Yeah. But for the most part, like it's a pretty, you know, constant-ish speed.
Because I feel like, you know, that's kind of a genre that gets a bad rap because they just kind of blew up on like mobile games and stuff. But like we've played a lot of pretty cool, like even, you know, Miles and Kilo wasn't technically an auto runner, but I was holding down right for the entire time and the run button and like Race the Sun from in a different perspective. But like, I don't know, I for a very long time at least would definitely hear the phrase, oh, it's an auto runner, and just write that game off. And like, I've played a lot of auto runners lately that are really fun. So I
feel like the term auto runner like makes it seem like there's no skill involved.
It's a little dismissive.
Yeah. Because I guess aren't some of those like Mario Maker levels, are those called auto?
Those are like, those are, but I feel like those are different in terms of,
they're a little different.
Those
like,
are like
don't push a button,
but are they under the same label though? Like, are those referred to as auto runners?
Yes, but I think the context of it makes it mean something different.
Yeah, I think so
for
too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know, because back when I played a lot of auto runners was, I don't know, I think like Cannibalt.
Yeah.
That came out, and like, so like I got used to them as being like kind of score chasing ones that like were endless also. Like I didn't really play a lot of auto runners that were like had
designed levels.
Yeah.
I played Jetpack on Facebook.
I used to play that too. Yeah.
That's a great auto runner.
Yeah. Jetpack Joyride, is that what it was called?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. That was fun. But yeah, there's a lot of good ones, you know. I just, there's something about that auto. The word auto makes you think like, oh, no skill, but like that atomic run gun, jump gun that I was playing a couple months back, like the game was impossible. I never came close to beating that game. So
what's really cool is like, you know, the like final levels of the game. You have to go through like a series. You have to go through a level like that kind of randomizes itself, and you have to complete it with like all the different bikes. So like you can't straight up memorize it, and you have to like adapt to all the different types of bikes, and it's not in a set order either. You could be like at any time you're starting with this bike and you need to.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it's
almost like a boss rush in a way.
Yeah, but like without, you know, that, you know, strict memorization. Like you do really have to get good.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say I really committed to this game over the course of like 2 or 3 days, and just it was a blast, and I was so pumped to like find it on sale for like $1.50. It's just like this is great.
Yeah, but it's not a super expensive game normally, right? Like $10 or something, maybe 15
within $10, I think.
Yeah. So definitely worth checking out according to DJ. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to keep continuing to carry that retro torch for Randall for one more week here. And I think we haven't talked a ton about Kirby games on the podcast, and I've been kind of after playing Super Metroid. I've got mixed feelings on Kirby, but Kirby's Adventure was one of my first games on the NES, and that was one of my favorite games. Like, just so bright and colorful, and looking back now, like on the NES, like that game was a powerhouse.
Oh yeah,
just beautiful, and it was one of the later release games. But anyways, I've been not dipping into that. I've actually been going back onto the Super Nintendo again. And after playing Super Metroid, which I did own the cartridge of, unfortunately, I never owned any of the. Randall and I have mentioned that we're both pretty big video game collectors, and definitely had a phase of like where I was like, I gotta have all the good Super Nintendo games, So I have a pretty fleshed out collection, but for whatever reason, but partially because of price tags and partially because of just never getting around to it, I guess. But I never got Kirby Super Star or Kirby's Dream Land 3. And both of those are available on the Switch Super Nintendo Online service. So I figured, why not give Kirby Super Star a try? When we were talking about some of I can't remember how Kirby came up when we were recently talking. Maybe we were just talking about this game, but like I just remember John mentioning he wasn't a huge fan of Kirby Super Star, and we were talking about other Kirby games, and I was just like, yeah, I never played this one. I actually did buy it on DS. They had that remake, Kirby Superstar Ultra, I think.
Yeah, I got that on DS as well.
But I barely played it. But essentially, it's like it's a very weird game. Like there's like I think 8 different like games, and like there's like 2 of them are like just like little mini, like they're like regular Kirby levels, but like just really micro, like they're just kind of like a handful of like longer levels, but like the adventure itself is very short. Like, like Kirby's Adventure, for example, was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 worlds with, 6 or 7 levels each. This is like 5 levels that are a little bit longer than those levels, but then like the game is over.
Milky Way Wishes, is that the first one?
The Milky Way Wishes is the last one that I haven't unlocked. Gourmet Race is like sort of more like a mini game where you're just like racing King Dedede.
What's the first one called?
I actually don't remember what they're called, but like
so the first one is just a remake of the original Dreamland, which was the Game Boy game.
I did not know that, but that kind of makes sense. Like, other than, I think in the original game you didn't have a copy ability.
Correct.
But in this they have that in all of these modes, I guess.
Yeah. So
but
the first mode
I didn't know that.
And that's kind of why it is like a very short game.
It's very short.
Because the original like Kirby game is a very short game.
Yeah, it's apparently 5 levels. I'm pretty sure there were like 5 levels on the world map.
But I'm a Kirby fan, and I know that like Kirby Superstar is a almost universally beloved entry in the series, and I can probably say it's my least favorite Kirby game of like the entire series.
I can definitely see that. Like there's definitely something like I can feel the feeling of like, I'm just firing this up on my Switch. Like I said, like if I would have shelled out like $75 for a cartridge when I was in my collecting modes and like fired this up, like I think I'd probably be having more of the reaction of like, really, this is the game that everyone's like so hyped on. Like this is the rare Kirby game that I can't get my hands on. Mm-hmm. But it is. I mean, it's the Kirby games are always just super charming, bright and colorful. I do like. I don't know if this was the first one. I don't know if did Dreamland 3 come out first or this. I don't really know.
I think Superstar came out first. I think Dreamland 3 was one of the last games for the Super Nintendo.
It's a beautiful game. Yeah.
And I know that Randall and I disagree on this.
And I think I might too, but I'll have to play more because I've only played a smidge. But
Dreamland 3 is also kind of a like Kirby 64 Crystal Shards is kind of also a remake of Kirby Dreamland 3. Like they have similar stories and similar bosses, but like different presentation and different challenges, and the levels are different. Yeah. But and I like the copy abilities are way different too. Like Dreamland 3 has like the helpers that drastically change your copy abilities, and like
more than just the helper, because like in Superstar you can actually like once you swallow an enemy you can actually like you can play co-op, but you can also like just have like you can expel that enemy and have it just be a helper, but it's just like that same enemy is just kind of following you around. But like in Dreamland 3, you like actually like ride on like these little animal helpers, and yeah, I think you can even combine like 2 power-ups together to make like a new power-up or something, or is that just because of the animal?
Yeah, you can combine a power-up with one of the helpers.
Gotcha.
And that was also introduced in like Kirby's Dream Land 2, which was also on the Game Boy. And that is a very like powerful like running the Game Boy to its limits adventure was.
That game definitely like took Kirby to where it is now, more of the concepts of what we're looking at. But I guess with Kirby Superstar, again, like there's like this gourmet race where you're like, it's more like a mini game where you're like it's just like a side scrolling Kirby level, but a really compressed, and you're just like sprinting and racing King Dedede. And trying to collect, I don't know what, some kind of food, I guess. Yeah. And then there's like another, which is the one I'm playing right now. I think it's called the Great Cave Offensive, which is kind of like it's actually laid out. This is probably the hardest of the things I've played so far. Probably the hardest Kirby game I've played, at least in the traditional series. Like I'm finding this part to be kind of challenging. It's actually kind of like not a Metroidvania because you don't need like abilities to unlock new areas, but it is just like one giant world where you're trying to find, I think it said there's like 60 treasures within this world, and you're just kind of exploring and going around, and there's save points. There's no map, at least that I've found, so that's kind of frustrating. But that's just been kind of fun, again, if you like Kirby games like I do. And then again, like after you beat some of these, like it unlocked, like there's like that Meta Knight game, essentially. Again, it's like a handful of levels, and then you just kind of like you're like raiding Meta Knight's ship, and there's some really cool, like there was one boss battle where you're like fighting like all these like little pop-up screens pop up, and you're like actually fighting like a JRPG battle, and it's like it'll say like you can't attack the enemy when it's like inside the pop-up, and then when it's your turn or their turn, they'll pop out and try to attack you, and then that's your turn to try to like attack them. So it's like it's loaded with charm, but I do think it's definitely Kirby's always been a franchise that's like they've just made all these like spin-offs, and Kirby Pinball and Kirby Tilt and Tumble and Kirby Canvas Curse, and some of these games are great, some of them are not so much, but like I feel like this game is almost like they had a bunch of those ideas and we're just like, I guess let's just cram it all into a Kirby game. And it's, for me, I'm enjoying it because I like Kirby games and I like the charm, but it definitely is like a lesser Kirby game, I would say. I'm more on John's side on this, I would say. But still having a really good time with it. And I do like I think this is one of the first games I didn't get to that thought when we started getting sidetracked with Dreamland 3, but you get like more, all of the enemies, like at least in Kirby's Adventure, which is the one I'm the most familiar with. Like when you get the beam, you capture that ability. Like you just have one move you can do with that attack. Yeah. Like this, you get like, there's like all different kinds, like you can hold your attack and charge it and do a different attack, or like every ability you can pause the menu and it'll tell you like all these, it's almost like not as elaborate as like a fighting game like Street Fighter, but I mean you have like 5 or 6 different moves with each ability that are like while you're running.
Hadouken with the fighter.
Yeah.
You do a quarter circle forward.
Yeah, and like while you're running or while you're midair or while you're dashing or like it's pretty cool. There's the abilities are definitely way more fleshed out, so there's like some fun in that in the game. But that's kind of the main enjoyment I'm getting out of this one, is just the experimenting with new abilities and the fact that I'm just not familiar, but not one of the best Kirby titles. But speaking of Kirby titles that are not the best,
come on,
I think we can go right to DJ. And I know, John, I've actually not put any time into this one, but you've been playing some Super Kirby Clash. Is that what it's called?
Yes. I've been trying to revisit some of my Switch games that I haven't beaten because,
time.
I'm always compelled to complete a game.
Yeah. And this is free to play on Nintendo Switch, or at least if you have the
It's also
online
free to play on the 3DS, which is where I
really
it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And I beat it
100%,
98.
Oh, well, farther than me. But yeah, this is just a boss fight.
Yep,
Kirby game.
Up to 4 players.
I was going to say it's built to be like multiplayer online, right?
Yes, though, like, there's plenty of, you can do local co-op or just have computers fill in, which is
I think I beat it with AI. Yeah,
that's what I'm
so
doing.
It's always multiplayer, like whether
you always have a team of 4. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. Like it just, I feel like it's just trying to manipulate me to buy.
It's 100% just a free to play.
Which is like they offered it for free, so like I can't really complain if they're asking for money for it. But at the same time, it's just like
it was a weird experience when I got it like years ago, and like it's like, oh cool, like there's a free Kirby game, and then it was like, yeah, this is kind of fun to do it. Like I would almost always play as a beam Kirby because that you could charge up an attack that would freeze time.
Yep.
And then like that
switch between them, the hammer Kirby, just because that does the most damage.
Yep. And like, it was fun to have like a little bit of light RPG elements of like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I'm getting stronger and I'm like, unlocking more things. But like there was always that little itch of like, yeah, but they're like, I'm playing this for like once a day because there's like a cooldown on the timers and like how many levels you can do, or
so it's that kind of free to play. It's not just like, oh, you can pay $5 to get a green Kirby. It's like, it's not just like skins and stuff. Because I'm cool with free to play. Like, hey, I'm playing Apex Legends all the time, and I really like this game, and I want to throw them a few bones, so I'm gonna buy a character skin and give them $10 or something. Whereas like I don't like the manipulative, especially when like a bunch of kids are playing these cute Kirby game and like, oh hey mom, hey dad, can I play? I don't like the manipulative aspect of it at all.
Yeah, so it's like you have a certain amount of vigor, and
Kirby gets tired.
Well,
unless you give him some cash.
Yeah. So each quest you go on like costs a certain amount of your vigor, like even like regardless of whether you beat it or not. And so if you run out, you get to a point where you can't play any more quests until like you could spend arguably the most important resource in the game, gem apples, to like restore your vigor, or like it will over time, like over long periods of time, it'll come back. Or if you're lucky, like at the moment you level up, it automatically fills back up.
Gotcha.
So I guess like a strategy is to play in such a way where you'll maximize the amount of experience you're getting, so you have a better chance of leveling up and being able to continue. But gem apples are a great way to be able to keep playing without having to wait or worry about that. Like there aren't many ways to get gem apples
without dollars.
Yeah. Like every 12 hours you can harvest them from this tree in the hub world. And you can complete quests, or you can complete goals in each quest that will earn you apples. But like you need apples to restore your vigor, you need apples to unlock quests to begin with.
Oh geez.
You need apples to purchase better gear, which is there's unique gear.
More important arguably than leveling up.
Is that the only currency in the game, are these apples?
They're like
crafting.
They're
materials.
Fragments, like fire fragments or light fragments, but you can't buy something with just those. You need apples also. Apples are used in
required
everything.
For everything. Yes. Okay, so that yeah.
So and that's the only thing you can like buy with real money is the apples. Yeah.
And are the boss battles fun? Because I'll say like, I've been playing Kirby Super Star. They are not fun. Like, I mean,
DJ and I are doing the same miming, equivocating.
Like, I beat King DDD with just like a basic beam attack, and I literally just final boss battle. I think I posted it on our Twitter. I think like literally just stood there in the wrestling ring with him and just spam the beam attack, and is a final boss of the game, and he's dead. It didn't even do one attack. So just crazy to me. Like so I mean, are they more challenging than a typical Kirby boss battle, or
They're mini. So the first couple ones are mini bosses from the more recent entries. And then the further along you get, they actually are the final bosses for a lot of the Return to Dreamland era, like starting with the Wii and then the 3DS titles. So there's, I forget, like Landia, I think is like the last one. And that was like the boss from, oh God, I can't even keep them all straight.
I know, there's so many Kirby games.
And I've played them all.
I've played most too, yeah.
But
and they're most pretty good.
Yeah,
mostly pretty good. Yeah,
I think they're decent boss battles, but like the way that you fight them in this game is really different than the way that you fight them in the actual games themselves, because you're not copying like abilities, and you're not like, you know, shooting back like projectiles that you typically would in a Kirby game. Like you just have your equipment, which is like either a beam, a hammer, a sword, or like the alchemist, which
flask,
is I forget what actual ability. I think it might be doctor.
Yeah.
But
it feels a lot just like charge up your attack as much as you can before you think the boss will hit you, because then it stops your charge and you would have to start over and charge as much as you can, hit it, and
the strategy
rinse
is
and repeat.
much lower than it is, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So nothing you need to run out and download on your Switch right away, and unless you're itching for something to play.
Money on it. Play it every 12 hours. Like, wait for your vigor to recharge, or spend your money on a better Kirby game.
Yeah, there's tons of good Kirby games out there, and there's like 3 free Kirby games on the Super Nintendo online service. So check those out. And is Kirby's Adventure on the NES online?
It is.
Okay, yeah. There's some great Kirby games also free, you know, if you have the online Nintendo service. But we got one more game to talk about tonight, which was another game that at least I got via free online service, or I guess I pay for my PlayStation Plus subscription, but got a game from, honestly, one of my favorite game developers, Capybara or Cappy Studios. And I guess I say that kind of with a grain of salt because I haven't played a ton of their games, but played a ton of one of their previous puzzle games. Critter Crunch was actually previously ranked number 1 in the world with our buddy Steve.
Previously,
we might still be. I haven't checked. I just haven't checked in so long. I don't know on the PlayStation 3, but they also made a version of it was like Might and Magic Clash of Heroes. It was like they took something of in that Might and Magic series and also made like this turn-based puzzle game that was like a match 3 battle puzzle game it's hard to explain, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but it's a really fun game. But this game is Super Time Force Ultra that I've been playing, which is a little bit older. It's not their most recent game or anything, but they I don't know. Most of their stuff has been like their most recent game, Grindstone, came out on Apple Arcade.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they've definitely kind of leaned a little more towards puzzle stuff in most cases. They've definitely ventured outside of that, but Super Time Force Ultra could not be further from that. I mean, this is a pretty intense action game. And it's like really over the top, zany characters, like a little bit much for me. Like it's going for like a little bit of like without being so insane, but like it's going a little bit for like a Rick and Morty vibe. I think this may have even come out before that, but like even you're the main like guy, like mad scientist guy, but you essentially have, I think I've got 5 characters unlocked at this point, maybe only 4. I can't remember how many are in the game, but you have these 4 characters, and like you start each level, like it's almost laid out like it's like you're picking a level once you get through the tutorial and stuff. You're like picking a level as if you're like in a Mega Man game. You know, you can pick from any of like, I think 6 or 7 levels, and then you go in and play that level, and you're like on a timer. I think it starts at like a minute and a half or 60 seconds. It's like, and you're picking up some clocks that increase your timer as time goes on in the level. But then when you you start each level with, I think 30 lives. There's some set amount. Maybe it's different in different levels. I don't know. But every time you die, you can then rewind time and then as far back as you would like to go to all the way to the beginning. And it also rewinds the clock, everything in regards to the game. But then when you restart the timer, everything that you did with that character before they died still happens. So you kind of see like a ghost. Up to, I guess by the end, like when you get to the end of these levels, can be up to 30, if you're on your last life, 30 past lives playing over. I mean, you probably not 30 because you're probably not making it to the end of the level on your first life, but you theoretically could.
Yeah, because if you were to die on your first life, rewind, and then go along with that ghost on your second life, you can take actions to save like your character. Like if there was a projectile coming, you could stop that projectile that killed your first person, then that ghost would live and keep going.
And they actually, not only that, but they actually like will, once you've like rescued them, like where they would have died, they'll kind of stay there and you can rescue them, and they actually will like attach to your character. So like all the 4 characters have different abilities and whatnot, different types of guns, different weapons and whatnot. So you will then, when you do like your charge attack, you will actually like do it. Like if you've like saved your like sniper character and you're playing as like your kind of more like tank character, like if you do your charge attack, it'll do both of those characters' charge attacks simultaneously.
Well, that's cool.
So this game gets so chaotic, so fast. Like I don't even have a clue what's going on sometimes, but you feel in control. It's not like so chaotic but it is hard as hell. Like I'm getting my ass kicked. I beat 2 levels. But I am just like, I don't know. It's awesome. But it has that like, kind of like Katana Zero, or a lot of these games do that where like after you beat the level, there's like a replay. So it will like do like a fluid replay that will just stay snapped to whatever character like gets you through the playthrough without any deaths, like whenever you would switch. And you can also trigger that. It doesn't have to be when you die, by the way. You can just hit the circle button and trigger that time, like, you want to create a clone or whatever and go back in time and whatever. So it doesn't have to be when the character dies.
Worth noting, though, you're limited by how many times you're allowed to do that.
That's tied to your lives. So every time those 30 lives you start the level with, that's like, again, I don't know if that's every level, but the 2 that I played, you start with 30. And like every time you reset, even if you don't die, that counts as a death essentially, but you can re-recruit that character. But yeah, I mean, I was getting down to some of these boss battles. Like one of them, I was like, it seemed like it was some kind of futuristic setting there. It's all in different times. It's like you're traveling in time and whatnot. And it's just like, it kind of had like a Blade Runner kind of feel to it. And there's just like these helicopters and planes coming in and smashing into this car. And you had to essentially like, not only there's this helicopter that you're trying to shoot while you're on these platforms that these like hover cars are slamming into. And you have to like, you essentially have to like line up all your different characters to be like taking out the cars on the side so that you can then rewind time. So then those cars are not an issue, so that you can just focus on shooting the helicopter. And I mean, it's just like getting down to like the fraction of the second. Cause then you have to keep rewinding. Cause then you're able to like, the more characters you have alive during that boss battle, the more damage you're able to do to that boss in that 5 seconds. Like every time you rewind, if you're going 5 seconds back, you're doing that damage that you already did plus whatever you're able to do the next time.
Right.
So it just gets so frantic and so frenetic, and I'm really loving this game.
It's sweet. You should see it to the end.
Yeah, it's one that I have to be in the right mood for, because it's like again, we're just talking about how intense it is. Like I can't just be like, I kind of feel like relaxing and playing some games. Like I got to be in the right frame of mind, but which I unfortunately haven't been since that night that I played a few levels, but definitely like when I'm in the mood for some fast-paced platforming action, like run and gun action, I want it.
That was my experience too. Like the first night I played it, like I felt a little overwhelmed and had to come back to it at a later time, but knowing what I was getting into, like that second time, it was just like, okay, this is sweet.
Yeah, and I really like at least the characters I've unlocked so far have like a pretty decent variety of like, you have one character that's like kind of more shield based, one character that's like long range sniper, rifle based, one that's kind of like tank-ish based, like I said, and then I forget what the other one is, but they're varied enough. And I think there are some more. I know actually in the Sony, on the PlayStation version, you can actually like unlock the Sony president or something like that. It's there's somebody related to like PlayStation you can unlock, which is super weird, but also kind of cool that they put that in the game. So I don't have too much more to add about that, other than this is like a game that again came out a few years ago, and probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it just seems to have been forgotten. And again, Cappy doing something that they don't always do. So They've been getting a bunch of love for Grindstone in the past like year, ever since that came out, which I still need to play. But happy to give some love to one of their previous titles. So
pumped, games like that just get me pumped to have that PS Plus subscription.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And I think I think this game is available on most platforms. I don't think it's available on Switch or anything yet, but I think you can get it on like Steam or Xbox or PlayStation. So definitely worth checking out. And yeah, I think we can leave it there unless you had something to add or anybody had anything to add this week. No?
Nope.
Cool.
Shouldn't have asked.
I know. John had that look in his eye like he was leaning in to say something.
A little twinkle in his eye.
Just a little twinkle.
Just look nice.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Well, yeah, we can leave it there. And hopefully next week we'll be back in full force to talk some more video games. But until then, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Email us at pursuingpixels@gmail.com. Or just wait until next week and we'll talk to you then. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
We can take a break for a minute. We don't have to go right into it.
Let's play Titanfall.
Oh, okay. What's this one? What are we doing?
We got Ring Fit, FutureGrind, Kirby Super Star / Super Kirby Clash, and then Super Time Force.
Kirby Super
DJ said he.
That is what you know.